The Cryo Archon has been leaked already, and she is not evil. And no, this is not clickbait. It has actually been leaked for some time now, and some of you might already even know this, but now that we're further along in Genshin Impact's story, plus we have the introduction of Honkai Star Rail as well, we can actually narrow in on the Cryo Archon, the Tsaritsa, leader of the Fatui Harbingers. But who is she? Well, she's Bronya. Bronya is the Cryo Archon, the same way that Raiden A and Tsaritsa from Honkai Impact 3rd are the Raiden Shogun and Nahida respectively. But what does this mean exactly? So for some quick clarification before we break this all down, the reason I say Bronya was leaked is because in the early version of Genshin Impact, Tartalia's description as a character was a bit different and they tweaked it towards the end, and it read something like this: the last harbinger of Bronya, the Tsaritsa, aka Child, is a powerful fighter adept with 100 type of weapons. He who travels with the traveler, what is his goal? So in the earlier stages of Child's description, the Tsaritsa was named Bronya, and then they removed it. That alone is enough evidence to tell you everything you need to know. But why would it be Bronya? There are already characters in the Hoyoverse named Bronya. Bronya Zacic, and we have Bronya Rand from Honkai Star Rail. And this is something Hoyoverse does a lot, because it is called the Hoyoverse, not Hoyo Games. What that means is they export a lot of characters across universes or timelines. That is sort of how they work. We've seen this already. Look at the Raiden Shogun, Raiden Mei from Honkai Star Rail, and now we have Acheron being introduced in 2.1 in Star Rail. We have Yae Miko, who is an export of Yae Sakura from Honkai Impact 3rd. Tsaritsa, who is Nahida, also from Honkai Impact 3rd. Are they just reusing the model, or is it like a reincarnation of the same character from like a different universe? Sort of like Doctor Strange or the Spider-Verse. You got the different Peter Parkers, and then you got Gwen, Spider-Gwen, and Spider-Pig. They all represent the same thing, but yet different. They all represent that universe's version of the same character, but it's not exactly the same character. Hope that makes sense. And because we have that early leak with Tartalia about Bronya, that confirms that at least at some point in time, Hoyoverse, or MiHoYo at the time, had plans for the Cryo Archon to be another incarnation of Bronya. Whether they changed their minds by now or not, we don't know for sure, but that seems highly unlikely. Shasnaya is the nation based off Russia, and Bronya is a Russian name. In Russian, it translates to armor, strength, and protection. Like the other doppelgangers, Bronya also has a very similar color palette and design through every universe and incarnation of herself. And her carnation perfectly fits the Cryo Archon theme. She usually has a blue and white color theme and grayish hair. And even looking at Bronya from Honkai Star Rail, Bronya Rand is a playable character in Honkai Star Rail. She is the commander of the Silvermane Guards, and the 9th and current Supreme Guardian of Belobog on Jarilo 6, a world covered in ice and snow. She's originally from the underworld, and she was handpicked to be the next Supreme Guardian, and then was adopted by Cocolia, who was the current Guardian when the game starts. And even her mother Cocolia, who turned into an ice boss using the Fragmentum from Belobog. Bronya Zacic. Born sometime in the year 2000, Bronya's parents are both presumed dead, so she's another orphan, and somehow ending up in the hands of the Russian gang, and she was forced to become a soldier and then a sniper. So both characters with similar origins, designs, and have Russian Easter eggs, and both being linked to ice, snow, and winter. But I can already see some of you saying, well, this is all fine and dandy, but Bronya doesn't fit the theme of the Tsaritsa, because the Tsaritsa is potentially evil and more or less one of the villains of the game. Well, we should know by now that's not true. The Tsaritsa is not evil. People seem to think she's evil, and the Fatui Harbingers impose her will on the rest of Teyvat. So by extension, the Fatui Harbingers' actions are the Tsaritsa's actions, which could put her in the bad guy category. But she's the god of love. Love. That is her fundamental existence and purpose. And her actions, I already went over this in a video covering the Tsaritsa, but her actions are that of a person who has a broken heart. She is not evil. She's heartbroken. She's grieving. We know the events of Conria tore her apart. She had a great relationship with Venti. They are no longer on speaking terms. What happened during the Cataclysm greatly impacted the Tsaritsa, and then we know she met Piero, who is from Conria, a royal mage there, and the Fatui Harbingers, whether they're manipulating her grief or they're just acting on her will, do her bidding. She wants to challenge Celestia, the very people she works for, technically. But to say that she's evil makes no sense at all. She's the god of love, because her doing what she's doing right now is going against her fundamental existence and purpose. Kind of like if Barbados started being super strict in Mondstadt, or Morax giving out loans with no contracts like, yeah, you'll get me back, or Nahida not caring about the correct answer, or even the Cryo Archon being like, make peace, not war. That goes against the fundamental principle of that Archon. It doesn't make any sense for her to be evil. She's doing everything and anything that she feels is necessary for the absolute benefit of Teyvat. We know that the Hydro Archon just gave authority back to a dragon, and we know that Celestia need the dragons alive in some way or form, because Teyvat fundamentally, as a place, as a planet, as a world, needs the dragons, the original inhabitants, which is probably why they haven't been killed ever by the Primordial One or anybody. Fundamentally, you can strip them of their authority and utilize their powers and place their powers into the Archons, but you ultimately need the dragons. It is not confirmed, but I do not think Teyvat can function without them. And the Tsaritsa and Piero, they all seem to be knowing what's going on. Again, we've heard about the false sky and all of that within Genshin. The Harbingers and the Cryo Nation clearly know more than we do. But the point being that Bronya actually does fit a person who is the god of love in Cryo. Even by design, her personality, whether it be very similar to the other Bronyas that we know of, she actually does fit the bill perfectly. And there is even more evidence to this from the Harbingers. Child describes her as actually being a gentle soul, but had to harden herself to declare war on the world for her dreams of peace. That doesn't sound like someone evil to me. Scaramouche has more of a cynical viewpoint, saying her kindness and benevolence is nothing but a form of sin, and feels that she's compensating for something. Well, he's a pretty cynical guy to begin with, but yes, of course she's compensating for something. She's got a broken heart. She's the god of love. La Senora was very loyal to the Tsaritsa. Pantalone was going to gift her a fur pelt of rare and exotic animal, which we know Yelan stole and made into the jacket that she has now. Zhongli willingly made a contract with her to end all contracts, and like I stated already, Barbados used to be very close friends with her, even pulling pranks on her, like took her scepter away and replaced it with a Hillytroll wooden club as a joke, but now they are not on speaking terms. And because Shaznai is based off Russia, I do feel like Piero is sort of like the Rasputin of the Tsaritsa. But we'll get into that in its own video because I don't want to get too off topic. Some more evidence to this is we could easily speculate that the Cryo Archon is the most important Archon in Genshin Impact. They obviously have the biggest, no pun intended, impact. The Fatui Harbingers and the Cryo Archon's goals are pretty much the driving point of this game. And Bronya is one of Hoyoverse's favorite characters. And like already stated, Bronya fits the ice theme in almost every carnation perfectly. And if you notice, Bronya in Honkai Star Rail, for example, is the successor of Cocolia, which is another small detail that points towards our current Cryo Archon, who is definitely most likely Bronya, who would not have been the original Cryo Archon. The Tsaritsa is not the original Archon. Only Venti and Zhongli have that title. So there would have been a change of hands at some point in time, but we know nothing about that. But just more evidence towards Bronya being the current Cryo Archon. I know this might not seem like a big tale, but Hoyoverse likes to do this with their bubble universes and just their different games. Cocolia represents the old Cryo Archon, and Bronya the second. They do reuse these narratives a lot in their games. Bronya inherits Cocolia's keep after Cocolia dies, just like we know the current Cryo Archon, the Tsaritsa, inherited that role in some way or form. And because we know they reuse these models for different characters, we've seen this time and time again. And the Hoyoverse, these games are connected, confirmed. Now, I will play devil's advocate here for a second, even though there's like 99% evidence pointing towards this. Could they have used Bronya as a stand-in name just for that moment with Tartalia's voice lines and description? Of course. It could be a coincidence. However, I should point out that they accidentally included the name Focalor in some of Venti's descriptions in beta, and it actually turned out to be true, and they could have had the initial intention of it being a carnation of Bronya, but in turn changed their mind throughout the years, but I highly doubt that. And as for that character model, representing a supposedly evil dictator type Archon that's trying to conquer Teyvat and causing a lot of ruckus around the entire world. Well, for somebody that's heartbroken and is the god of love, I think the character model and the design choices actually fit very well. I think Bronya perfectly fits a character who has hardened herself and feels she's doing all of this for the greater good. Like voice lines suggest, she's not evil and actually has a pretty big heart. Fundamentally, I do not see how the Cryo Archon, the god of love, can be an evil being. That doesn't make any sense. And as for how she met the Jester and how they formed their alliance to start the Harbingers organization and this 500-year-long plan, well, maybe it's love. But we'll get into that in another video, as I want to talk about the Jester and the Cryo Archon's relationship, both professional and possibly romantic, maybe. But thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed the video. Again, I know some of you, especially those of you that have played all the games in the Hoyoverse and really know the lore inside out, probably already knew this, but I thought it's worth talking about because Shaznaya's creeping up faster than ever. We got Natlet coming out this year, and then it'll be on to the Cryo region, so this is personally what I'll be expecting from the Cryo Archon, but at the end of the day, Hoyoverse is going to do what they want to do with this character. But thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, help grow the channel. I really do appreciate you all watching this far. And as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.